everyone. Today our topic is assessment methods used in psychology, and specifically we are going to learn about these 5 assessment methods. Number 1 is case study, then there is psychological testing, observation method, interview, and the last one is self-report measure. So we'll go through each one of them and let's get started. First assessment method used in psychology or in psychological research is a psychological test or psychological testing. Now, what do we mean by psychological test? Psychological test is an objective and standardized measure. All right. Now, what do we mean by objective? When I talk about objectivity, what do we mean by objectivity? Number 1, in objectivity, there is no right or wrong answer. All right. No right or wrong answer means there is no personal opinion or there is no biased judgment or there is no personal judgment of the individual who scores the answer script. All right. And another one is that objectivity refers to the degree to which scores obtain, to which the equally competent scores obtain the same results. Okay, like what is their degree? So a test is considered objective when it makes for the elimination of the scorer's personal opinion and biased judgment. The personal judgment of the individual who scores the answer script should not be a factor affecting the test scores. All right. And also the scoring procedure should be such that there will be no doubt as to whether an item is right or wrong or partially right or partially wrong. The next one, that it is a standardized measure. What do we mean by standardization? See, standardization means that a test is administered such that a group of subjects under exactly the same experimental conditions and scored in exactly the same way. And that means standardization means that same experimental conditions have been used for both the groups or both the students, and the scoring of each of their answer scripts are done in the same way. Okay. For example, suppose one person took a math test in a thunderstorm and the other in a silent proof room. Now, based on the test scores, could we really say who was better in math? Or is it fairer to say that the thunderstorm condition confounded that person's score? Let us further say that we applied different scoring criteria to each of the test takers. Could we still say who was better in maths? No, of course, right? Because both of their experimental conditions were different. One student was sitting in a silent proof room, in a soundproof room, and the other person was in the conditions which were, which were vulnerable to the thunderstorm. Okay, so there were not the same experimental conditions, and also, for example, the scoring criteria was different for both of them. So that is why standardization is also important. Now, when we talk about psychological tests, what are they used to measure? They measure certain psychological criteria or psychological trait. For example, introvertedness, okay, how introverted a person is or how extroverted a person is, or also to measure certain aptitude. Okay, like for example, you want to become a mechanical engineer, say in your future, or you want to pursue a career in mechanical engineering. Now, you want to take a mechanical aptitude test in order to check whether you have the capability or whether you have the potential to move forward in mechanical engineering branch. All right, so that is it. It measures our behavioral components or our psychological traits. Okay, so psychological test is divided into 2 parts. One is objective test and another one is subjective test. All right. So coming on to the first one, objective test. Now, what are objective tests? Here are certain key points which I have noted down. So basically, in objective tests, the test is not influenced by the examiner's own beliefs. All right. Suppose, say, I am the examiner and I'm taking a particular aptitude test or I'm taking a particular personality test of any student or of any individual. All right. So when I am taking that particular test, there is no particular belief of mine involved in that, all right, because there is standardization involved. There is a particular scoring of this personality test. So I can't put my personal opinion or my personal belief in the scoring or in the rating of this personality test of any individual. Okay, this was the first point, that no rater's bias or no examiner's beliefs or personal values are involved in objective tests. Second one is that objective test in psychology, they measure all the dimensions or all the dimensions of psychological attributes. Like they measure intelligence, they measure aptitude, they measure interest, they measure personality, they measure values. Okay, they measure all the dimensions or all the domains of psychological attributes. The third one, what are they basically used for? Okay, what are objective tests basically required for? They are required for the purposes of clinical diagnosis. Okay, clinical diagnosis, or they are used for selection, personal selection. For example, we want to take admission in a college, okay, in a college of, say, in a college of performing arts, okay, and we want to go in drama society or say in dance society or in music society. Now, obviously, they are going to take our test, okay, or they are going to take our objective test, that do we have interest for musical society or do we have particular aptitude in the area of drama society. So that is it. So it is also used for personal selection, and also it is used for placements. It is also used for training purposes in workplace. Okay, moving on to the subjective test. This is this is Rorschach test, Rorschach ink block test. This is a very popular subjective test, and we will read about it further in our next unit. Okay, so moving on to the subjective tests. Subjective tests, unlike, they are also known as projective measures, by the way. Now, subjective tests, unlike objective tests, are sensitive to the rater's or examiner's beliefs. Okay, now how is it so? Because to measure subjective tests, there are no particular standardization scores, or there are no particular inventories to compare scores or to measure scores. So it is obviously, or mostly, it is dependent on the rater's bias or on the examiner's beliefs. Okay, like, this is, suppose you have entered in a particular room, and you have been asked to look at this image, and then you have been asked the question, okay, fine, now what do you think this image is, or what do you think, what do you identify this image with? Okay, now whatever you will say, that will be a particular answer, but you will be judged on the basis of the rater's bias. Okay, suppose you said, okay, fine, this looks like an animal. Okay, like any animal you say. Now, it depends on the rater's beliefs. It depends on the rater's bias, that how will he interpret your explanation, or how will he interpret your answer with his own words or with his own beliefs. Okay, why? Because there are no particular standardized scores to measure your answer or to measure your explanation for this image. Okay. Now, what are subjective tests used for? They are used to reveal the unconscious perceptions. Okay, they are basically based on psychoanalysis. Okay, psychoanalysis. We'll read about psychoanalysis further. So they are based on psychoanalysis, and they seek to expose people's unconscious perceptions. Okay, unconscious basically means the things which we are not even aware of. Okay, so the things which we are not even aware of, they are our inner aspects of our personality. Okay, so they reveal, so subjective tests basically reveal the inner aspects of our psychology, of our personality. Okay, so this is Rorschach ink blot test, and obviously we'll read more about objective and subjective tests in our upcoming chapter. So this is the brief introduction of these. Next assessment method which we are going to talk about is interview. Now, interview's definition is divided into two parts, and it's a very, very simple definition. So basically, interview involves seeking information from a person on a one-to-one basis. Okay, these two are the basic components of interview's definition: seeking information from a person on a one-to-one basis. All right. Now, here are certain examples. In this image, we can see a counselor interacting with a client. This is also a form of an interview. In this image, a salesperson makes a door-to-door survey regarding the usefulness of any particular product, or maybe she's trying to explain her project, or she wants to take some sort of donations from her, and she's explaining her project to her so that she is ready to donate to her project. Okay. In this one, an employer is selecting employees for his organization, maybe, or maybe this is a student and he's trying to get admission in a particular college or in a specific school. So this is the administrator, and she's interviewing that particular person. In this image, we can see that a journalist is interviewing this person. Maybe he's of national or international importance. So he is interviewing this person to gather the information, or to gather the data on any important issue regarding the national issue, or regarding any drama critics or anything like that. That means, this is a person of great importance, and he's trying to gather some information from it. Okay. So yeah, all of these are examples of an interview. Moving on to the next assessment method, which is case study. So case study is an in-depth study. Okay, in-depth means a very, very, very detailed study. And when I say a very detailed study, I mean it. Okay, now an in-depth study of an individual about what? About his psychological attributes, about his psychological history, or about his psychological environment. Okay, about his psychosocial environment, or about his physical environment. So this overall is a case study. Okay, an in-depth study of the individual in terms of his psychological attributes, psychological history, in the context of his psychosocial and physical environment. Okay, so there are certain specific things about case study. Number one is that case study includes in-depth study not only of a person, but also of a group or an event or any community. Okay. The next one, that case study is not itself a research method. Okay, why is it not a research method itself? Because researchers gather various, researchers collect various data from different data collection methods. Okay, different methods are used by researchers in case studies, so it is not itself a research method in particular. Why? Because different methods of data collection are used. Now, when I say different methods of data collection are used, I mean every single data. That means observations of a person's daily routine, or unstructured interviews with the participant herself, or with people who know her, or data can also be collected through personal diaries, through personal notes like letters, photographs, or data can also be collected through certain official documents like certain clinical notes, certain appraisal notes. Okay, that is why different methods are used for data collection in case study. That is why it is not itself a research method, but various methods of data collection are used in case study. Okay. Now, case studies are basically used or widely used by clinical psychologists. Why? To study the cases of great people, to study the cases of great people and to learn something from their experiences. Okay, like for example, very detailed investigations into the private lives of the patients may help psychologists or may help researchers to overcome their illnesses, and then they can use that particular information further. Okay. Now, here are certain examples which I have tried to collect. We'll study about each one of them in detail further, but let me give a brief introduction about each one of them. So this is a very, this is a very disturbing picture. This is Phineas Gage. So Phineas Gage has been a very, very dramatic case, I would say, a very dramatic case study in the study of psychology, and it is obviously very useful. So what was the story of Phineas Gage? Why is this, a very disturbing picture? So I'm going to tell the story of Phineas Gage. So basically, Phineas Gage was a railroad employee who experienced a terrible accident in which an explosion sent a metal rod through his skull, damaging important portions of his brain. Gage recovered from his accident, but was left with serious changes in both personality and behavior. Now, Phineas Gage's accident or Phineas Gage's case study helped researchers to learn more about the changes in personality and behavior, and help researchers to link changes in any biological structure to personality and behavior. So this gave further rise in say biopsychology. Okay, because this was a case of biology, if you'll see. Okay, so researchers basically linked biopsychology with personality and behavior with the help of Phineas Gage's case study. Another one is Ginny. So Ginny was a young girl subjected to horrific abuse and isolation. The case study of Ginny allowed researchers to study whether language could be taught even after critical periods for language development had been missed. Her case also served as an example of how scientific research may interfere with treatment and lead to further abuse of vulnerable individuals. Okay, so basically, this Ginny case study helped researchers to understand whether language can be developed in a particular child or in a particular individual, even after the critical periods of language learning have been passed. Okay, so yeah, Ginny case study helped researchers in language development. The last one is Anna. So Anna was the woman experiencing symptoms of a condition known as hysteria, and she found that talking about her problems helped relieve her symptoms. Okay, so basically her case played an important part in the development of talk therapy as an approach to mental health treatment. Okay, so yeah, all these case studies are a great help in the study of psychology, and of course you learn further about these studies. So yeah, this is a brief about the case study method.